Hello guys, in last video we saw how to implement the REST data consumer. So now we have few uh, REST APIs available and we have created a single REST data consumer so which can consume from all of this concurrently. And like just consuming is not enough, that we also discussed. So like everything that we are consuming needs to be handled by some object. So now we had created an abstract data handler class, so which implemented one single method, that is handle data, which can be used in different ways. And one of the simple one that we have created was the simple data handler, which was just logging the data. So basically, that is where we left, and today we are going to do a little bit ahead. So whenever we are getting any response from any APIs, it's uh, most of the time it's either in some JSON format, an XML format. Okay, it can be in any other different format, but you'll find most of these APIs implemented in either JSON or XML format. So what we want to do is, definitely we are not going to play with the strings all the time. So definitely, we'll be converting this JSON responses to a particular object. So I'll show you an example how we can do that. So this is where we left. I'm starting the application now. So I'll just quickly start and I'll stop it once. Okay. See, now we have few of the responses. What I want to do is I want to observe this response. This. Okay, it's a quite long one. So what I'll do is I'll copy entire thing. In IntelliJ, you can create a simple scratch file. I'll create one simple scratch file. I'll say it's a JSON file. I'll paste it here. I'll format this. Okay, now we have formatted, so we know the schema, what it's going to be. If you see, this is the response that we have. This is a JSON object. In that, we have a data field, which is a list, and if I collapse, I have another field, that is timestamp. So this is a epoch timestamp. If you don't know what is this, you can just Google it, epoch timestamp. Okay, epoch timestamp. See what is epoch timestamp. It's basically, literally speaking, epoch is Unix time, midnight 1/1/1970. So basically, it's just like how much time we are in the future from 111970. Okay, so that is pretty simple. So basically, this is the response, and in the data, this is a list. What is this list? This is a list of one another JSON object. It's a simple object. It has few fields like exchange ID, name, rank, percentage, volume, US dollars, trading pairs. Okay, and all of these are repeated. So basically, it's a list of exchange information. So now, what do we want to do is we'll convert this JSON request into a list of data request pairs. Now, even before we start that, I'll show you one more thing. See, this is the response from Exchange API. I'll check the assets API. Copy, paste, I'm formatting. Hmm, interesting. So here as well, it's the data, and then there is data is a list of few other things. It's an asset. So now it's talking about the assets, the crypto assets. It's Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tether. Okay. So you are understanding the like similarity between two responses, right? Basically, the both of the response, or rather I say all of the response, are covered in one single response object. Correct? That response object has one list of data and one timestamp. This list of data can be either this asset or exchange or market or rates. Even if you check this one, this is the homework for you. Check this one and this one. So probably if you have worked in this one, converting JSON to any data object, then you might know if we want a Pocho or DTO, or if we are like in this project we are using the latest Java, we are not going to use Pocho, we'll be using records. So records like we had one created for config object, we'll definitely do this for other stuff as well. But in this one, we are not going to create an entire data payload Pojo, including the market, asset, and other stuff in one single thing. We'll be using something called template. So what I want to do is I will create another class. I'll say these are DTOs, correct? And in DTOs, what we'll do is we'll create one more record, that is data response. Data response. Response. I want it to be record. Okay. So what did data response had? It had one timestamp. Timestamp is nothing but a long integer. Timestamp. Correct? Where is our scratch file? It is here. I'll open it here. Data response. Long timestamp. Correct? Spelling is correct. And then another thing is data. It's a list data. Cool. Now, here you can see it's a raw usage of parameter. What I want to do is like basically in all of the responses, the underlying data we have, that's a different one. So we'll be using template as well. Correct? So now we have created one, the data response. What I'll do is I'll create one for exchange information as well. Create one for exchange info. It's a record. Cool. I'll undo this. I have this exchange information, correct? So now definitely we'll create one record for this. I can type it for the same, but I want you to I want you to see how am I going to do it. Like basically such kind of work you might not want to do this by your hand, or basically it's time consuming. So let's say if the GitHub Copilot can help me. I have GitHub Copilot. I encourage if you have someone, it's like $10 a month only. So and there is this 1 month free trial as well. If you want to use it, please use it. That's a really good one tool. I usually all I usually like take help for testing some simple stuff, or maybe some hard work, not creative things. I'll do this. Create a record exchange info for this JSON. I'll paste it here. Let's see what the response we are getting. What is the response that we are getting? Sure. See, it has created one simple thing. If you go ahead and check, exchange info is a string. There's a string. Then trading pairs, it's a string. Socket is a boolean. String is a exchange URL string. This is long. Cool. This looks correct. So I'll copy paste. All of these are primitive data types, so we don't need anything else to be imported. Okay, so now we have one data response, we have one exchange information. It's your job to create for other things as well. Definitely, if you don't have Copilot, please do it by yourself. That's not a big JSON to do. Now I'll jump to next task. So we saw last time we had created one data handler that was simply just basically storing the information, the logging the information in the console. Will be using one for data storing. Okay, like what do you mean by data storing? So basically, I want this data to be stored in my local memory. So if by chance, by any chance, I need uh, some data from any other class, then I can definitely fetch it from that one. Uh, so exchange information, basically, if you are saying exchange information, that's not going to be uh, relatively uh, fast, high velocity data. So basically, it's not moving very in the high velocity. It's not changing very much. If you are squaring this data, maybe every half an hour or 1 hour, it will be definitely uh, fine, because the trading volume that we have, the trading currency that we have, it's not going to be moving. We are not going, like, most of the business not going to be using that one. So basically, what we want to do is, like, whenever we are hitting this API, we don't want to hit that again and again. Whatever we are hitting, we'll be storing it somewhere, and most probably it will be in like in memory store only. So whenever we are starting the application, we are hitting the API, we are getting the response, we'll be storing it somewhere. Okay, definitely we can store it in the DB, but that's out of scope for our project. So what I'm going to do is, like, I'll create one more data handler. I'll say it, uh, data storing handler. Correct. We have data storing handler. We have implemented extends abstract data handler. Okay, we have overridden data handler. I'm not going to printing out the data. What I want is, first I'll basically, every class we are logging something, then logger data stream. I'll import these methods, import Apache logging, log manager. Okay, and then we have one, we have this one data handler, right? So what we are going to do is, we want to get response. Okay, so whenever we are fetching the data from the REST API, we want the data to be passed here. We want the data to be handled by this handler. So we'll be getting the response here. What we'll do is, we have one data response class, right? So data response class, I want this data response class to be created from the JSON data. So for that, if you don't know what we are going to, if you don't know what we had used in uh, consuming the configuration file, we had used object mapper. We'll be using the same here as well. Okay. So what I want is, I want one object mapper. Okay. If your configuration, if whatever, in whatever project you are working on, if you have object mapper once created, if you want that same property to be used by all of the object mapper instances, then definitely you can pass one object mapper to all of this constructor. But that's not my requirement. I can definitely create one more object mapper. It's not a big one. Then object mapper, sorry, then object mapper dot read value from data to data response class. That is correct, right? So now it will definitely say add surrounding, try and catch. Cool. It's JSON processing exception. If I'm unable to process the JSON, I definitely don't want to crash my application. And just because probably if we might have consumed one response, and we already have the data. And by there's very rarely this happens, but something's wrong with their API, and their API is not giving correct values, or maybe some contract has been changed, so the API structure is changed. At that time, we'll definitely not be in a place where we'll be converting this data into the data response correctly. But we definitely don't want it to be, say, crashing our application, because we already had some of the data already present, right? So now data response dot data. I'll log this one. Cool. What I'll do is, now if, okay, cool. I'm logging this one. What we'll do is, I have this data storing handler, exchange info. In the application, we had this REST data consumer, right? What I'll do is I'll put it here. I don't asset, I want exchange. Okay, let's see. Let's start the application. Handling data, what we had logged. Okay, a log data storing handler from. I'll start again. I want to search for this string. Cool. Basically, we have this all of the objects available and ready. So what I'll do is I don't want this. If I go ahead and put debug point, let's check. Okay, data response dot data. What is this? It's an array list of hash map. It's not the object that we had, the exchange info object, correct? It's an incorrect class. So what I'll do is now this is my job to convert that hash map to correct object class. So what I'll do is private final class of t data class. I want to create one constructor as well. Okay. Now if data class equals exchange info dot class, at that time what I'll do is data response dot data. We can stream. Basically, we are iterating over each of the thing. Then map exchange info. Then what we'll do dot map exchange info and object mapper convert value. So we can convert the value from one to that exchange info dot class. Then want to collect it as list. Okay, and I'll assign it to one variable. I'll call it list for now. Now we'll debug. Okay, constructor. Okay, cool. We want it here. Exchange info. So now we have, I think, everything ready. We don't need this actually. Full. So now we'll start. Correct. I'm going to execute this. Oh, this one passed. What I'll do is I'll evaluate this. Okay. It's a list of immutable collection, list of exchange information. So we have successfully converted this data to exchange information record that we had. Right now, what to do with this data? We definitely want to store it. Okay, we are not going to basically keep it here. Definitely, we want this data to be accessed everywhere. So we'll create one data storage class. Ideally, this data should be uh, persisted to some static data in the static data table in a database, but it's fine. For this, we'll keep the scope minimal. Static mutable multi-map mutable list multi-map. It's the string of exchange info exchange info list. Private. Definitely, we don't need this. Okay, what I'll do is I don't have a long block, so I'll create one getter and public static synchronized void update exchange formation. So now we had list of exchange informations, right? So for that, all exchange info list equals list adapter that will adapt this list into the mutable list, so we can do our processing faster. Group by exchange info dot exchange id. Cast expression to list. What does it do? Mutable list multimap string to exchange info. Okay, I'll say it list and then list. Okay, the variable name was different. You can get with a you can go with a better naming. So now we have created a data store. Basically, whatever response we are getting, we'll be using that and we'll be updating our this data storage class. So now we can use this data storage class in our data storing handler. So we already converted our responses into that. So what I'll do is data store dot update information and cut paste. Okay, logger info. I'll say here. I'll put my debug point here. I'm starting the debugging. Okay, so now data store dot get exchange list. Okay, awesome. We have total of 73. Blockchain.com, we have everything about blockchain.com here. Blockchain.com, Zai, Fibe, like some of this we have never even heard of, but everything is here. So at any point of time in any place in this code, whenever we want to exchange any information about any exchange, all we need is its exchange ID. We can get it from this one. Correct? We can definitely enhance this one just by saying something like get exchange information from so like if I do say exchange information dot get some Binance, then it will definitely return me the mutable list of exchange information, all of the exchange information objects that we have for that Binance. Cool. So that is how we can do it. So now what we'll jump into, uh, we have created everything from REST data perspective, where we are calling the HTTP methods to this endpoints, and we are getting the data where we are logging, we are persisting into the data store. You can like take it a bit step ahead and create this static tables in one of the database. You can connect your code and get one data handler to execute those queries asynchronously. Synchronously, you can definitely try that out. That's up to you. What I'm interested in, I'm interested in the next phase of the project, that is WebSockets. Now, most of you might have heard this WebSockets. Many of you might have worked, like, but most of you might not have worked for the WebSockets. We are definitely going to work with this WebSockets. Will like this CoinCap also provides two of the WebSockets. We'll be using one of them. Will be consuming data, and that will be really fast. And if you go ahead and see like at what velocity the data is coming, you'll be amazed. Like almost every second we are getting a new price for all assets. It's assets like as in uh, assets as in Bitcoin, Ethereum will be getting new prices. So that is one thing that we are going to do. We'll be consuming from WebSocket, and we'll be handling that data as well. Where we are going to handle, will will not put it in the data, will not put it in the data store, will be putting it into the Kafka sync. Kafka sync, yes, correct. So this high velocity data will be consuming, will be putting into the Kafka sync. So I'll show you how to work with Kafka, how I can create a Kafka producer, will configure all of this here, and then will put consume those data and put it into Kafka. That's going to be really interesting. Uh, See you in the next video.